And that's a couple of trademarks that I've spotted from Moto Guzzi. First up, they've trademarked or renewed it for the Moto Guzzi California, which was their big traditional looking cruiser that I think was built upon the same 1400-ish engine as that. Mate, I can never say the word. The bike that's on the screen now.
The Adache.
That was brilliant, mate. I was like, Ordis. Moto Guzzi Ordis. But you're right.
No one correct me. I hope I'm right. Yeah, carry on.
Said with flair, mate. Very impressive. So that was the last iteration of the California. Quite Harley looking, but also does its own little Moto Guzzi thing. Obviously, the way the engine looks helps to give it some uniqueness.
Yes.
But yeah, number one, maybe they're just trademarking that name to protect their intellectual property. We've always got to say that because that's probably the case a lot of the time. But number two, if they did bring it back, they don't really have an engine like this anymore, do they?
No, which makes me think if they did bring it back, would they stick that engine in it, or would they be sticking something else in there? Would they be sticking maybe the V100 just sort of bored out? Are they making that one bigger? Or
I don't know, mate.
There's question marks in my head. But did really like that bike. I rode the Audace because someone fan of the channel actually sort of offered a ride, and you don't turn that down. So yeah, it was really fun to go and have a try on that one. It is quite unique as well because I've ridden Harleys, ridden Indians, and it doesn't really compare to either of them. It is quite unique.
Yes, very cool looking bike, but I find it difficult to believe that they would bring that engine back because of increasingly strict emissions. I read a good article actually the other day by Martin Fitzgibbons about Euro 5B and what it actually means. And actually the sort of emissions levels are the same as Euro 5, but what they're now testing, the longevity of the cat, because it performs better when it's brand new and it can deteriorate. So there now has to be an O2 sensor before and after the cat to make sure that it's doing its job as efficiently as POS. And if it isn't, you've got to take it for a service, I guess, because it'll, flash up. Good article. I think it's over on Visor Down with a bit more detail than that. But yeah, like to take something relatively niche like that and have to go through that process for a big 1400 transverse V-twin for, a bike that's not going to sell in massive volumes. Realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. Then you've got the V7, which is now an 850, which is a little bit too small, I would say, to knock something out like this. Or the V100, like you say, which is thoroughly modern and feels a bit more sporty, but maybe they could do a bigger capacity version of that. Anyway, that's option one. Option two, my friend, it's the Moto Guzzi Stornello name that's been trademarked, and this was last seen on the V7 platform, and it was a sort of scrambler-style bike. So we're talking slightly knobbly tyres, spoked wheels.
Yeah.
I don't know if that sits any taller with the suspension, does it? But it's got that high-rooted exhaust, beautiful paint job, little fly screen, slightly higher bars. A road bike, let's be honest, but what a great looking bike that is.
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a massive fan of the high slung exhaust because it's got a little too many angles, I would say. It's weirdly sort of kinked. I do sort of get it.
Too
but
kinky.
Also, if you're
first time you've ever said that.
Exactly. It's too kinky for me. Tone it down a little bit. So yeah, the exhaust I was never a massive fan of. And also, like you say, it's very clearly a road bike. I had a friend who actually bought one of these, friend and colleague, and he took it to Salisbury Plains and just ground the thing out. Right? I know, yeah. You or I would look at that and be like, oh, great, that's some optimism. And yeah, sure enough, he came back and was like, yeah, it ain't the right tool for the job. I get it. I mean, it's sort of similar to the Bonnevilles, the Scramblers that Triumph do as well, right? It plays in the same sort of category where it's a bit too, it hasn't got the ground clearance, it's a bit too heavy. It's not really the sort of bike you want to do some serious off-roading. So yeah, it looks cool. It does look cool, but yeah, more for road style over function.
Is there a word for someone who's a friend and a colleague? I'm thinking froleague.
Let's coin it. I like it. So my froleague took it and ground it out regularly, yeah.
We're froleagues, I'd say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, a little more on the friend side, I would say, than...
No, but right now...
Like capital F. Yeah, we're froleagues.
Right now, yeah. Okay. Good to know where we stand. I think this would be amazing if it came back. And this is much more conceivable that this would happen because effectively it's just an accessory kit on a existing platform. And they've got what's the really nice V7 Stone Corsa, isn't it? The Cafe Racer style one. Looks beautiful. Yeah. You've got the V7 Special. You've got the V7 Stone. You've got the V7. There's another one as well. Anyway, there's four at the moment.
Or something like that.
I'm going to have to look now, aren't I? Because I've got myself into a bit of backed myself into a Moto Guzzi corner. But it's the one between the Stone, which is the most basic with the cast wheels, and the Special, which has got the spoke wheels and looks a bit fancy. And it's called the V7 Special Edition, which is why I couldn't remember it. But basically, it's got red suspension and a fancy paint job, but it's very similar to the V7 Stone. For me, V7 Stone Corsa, easily the best looking with that Cafe Racer vibe. Love the paint job on that. But actually, a sort of sat up, more practical riding position is preferable. And if they did do something like the Stornello again, I'd be all over it. I think that'd be like the best application, let's say, of what a V7 could be. So that'd be my pick. What about you? Cali or Stornello?
So, I think I saw something with the Stornello name because they've got those single cylinders potentially in the works as well, right?
Oh, man, I hope they don't do that. Come on.
Yeah, I'd prefer if they gave it to the more premium V7 than if they just sort of like
I hadn't considered that,
the name
mate.
A little bit.
I hadn't even thought about that.
I read a little further in and I saw something about like, maybe the single, and I was like, same as you, I had the same reaction, which was, no, don't do that. Because that would, maybe it'd still be fun. I don't know. It played with sort of Svartpillen, or at least what the Svartpillen originally kind of was, that kind of bracket of bike, or the Triumph 400s. But yeah, I think for me, out of these two, the one I'd be most excited for, and I think possibly because it's a bit of a long shot, is the California. Because I think the V7's great anyway, but the California would be a different platform. That's bringing out a cruiser where at the moment they've got a bit of a gap in that market. Or at least in their lineup. So I think if they could bring some version of the California forward, then I'd be very up for that one.
I agree it's a long shot, though. You're a dreamer, mate. I'm a realist. I just want an accessory kit on a V7. Do you know what I mean? You're more ambitious, romantic ideas about what might happen. I'm practical and pessimistic.